How many warps does it take to beat WARPTORIO? Well, to answer that question we first need to ask, what is WARPTORIO anyway? Now, I could say that WARPTORIO is a mod that takes the most annoying part of Factorio, which is building and deconstructing mines, and makes you do it time and time and time again. Now, I know that sounds just horrible, but somehow WARPTORIO pulls it off to make the process actually interesting and entertaining. Now, if WARPTORIO can make building mines interesting, then you just know we are in for a treat with the rest of this mod. Alright, so WARPTORIO is basically vanilla Factorio with a twist. Instead of being able to take it easy, you know, endlessly tinkering around with aesthetic design choices to make your factory as feng shui as possible, WARPTORIO really dials the pressure knob up to 11 and then just keeps cranking it until the knob breaks straight off. You spawn in as normal on the planet of Novice, with the only obvious change being that you spawn on a teeny tiny concrete platform, also known as the warp platform. This warp platform is the result of some dodgy experiments gone horribly wrong, and now this teeny tiny platform is going to cause you all sorts of problems for the rest of the game. The first problem you'll note is probably the AutoWarp Timer in the top left corner. It started off at 20 minutes, and when it reaches 0, the warp platform will, well, warp away to a new planet and start the 20-minute countdown all over again. And it will keep warping to the next planet every time the timer reaches 0, upon which the old planet gets brutally deleted out of existence, including everything you might have left on its surface. So you had better pack your bags timely and be ready to warp out together with the platform, because the platform will warp away with or without you. And if it's without you, you are stranded, with no way back to the warp platform except for dying and respawning. Without your inventory, obviously, and contrary to vanilla Factorio, where you can just go pick up your inventory from your clone's body, in WARPTORIO that corpse just got deleted straight out of existence, together with the old planet you just died on. Also, don't stand on the edge. Anyway, there's more to WARPTORIO than just the warping from planet to planet, including a whole additional tech tree with WARPTORIO specific technologies and upgrades. But we'll get to those later, because after playing for a couple minutes, you'll probably find out about the second major change to vanilla Factorio. That sweet little teeny tiny warp platform emits literal tons of pollution, which will eventually be causing non-stop heavy biter attacks, as well as a murderous biter evolution pace, far outpacing even the brutal Dead World preset in vanilla. You want to know how bad it is? Well, here is a 20-minute time-lapse of the pollution output by just the platform, without any factory pollution at all. Now let's compare that to the pollution output of a standard vanilla opening on the same map 20 minutes in. I have been mining hard for thousands of resources, but the resulting pollution cloud is a fraction of the warp platform's one. Yeah, so that means we are not going to need to worry about the pollution output of anything we build ourselves, as the sheer smog cloud that the warp platform outputs will blot out the sun all by itself. Also, you may notice a weird black square on the map. Also, you may notice a weird black square on the map. Yeah, that is a literal void right where the warp platform used to be. And while the warp timer counts down to 0 to warp itself to yet another planet without us, watch closely what happens to the biter evolution factor. Indeed, each time the warp platform warps to a new planet, the biter evolution factor is reset to 0, providing a fresh new start on a fresh new planet. And that reset is very much needed. Without that evolution reset, the intended method of playing WARPTORIO would simply be impossible. You would get overrun by masses and masses of near invincible high evolution biters long before you have the means to do anything about it. But that tiny tidbit of trivia brings us to the first and very cheesy answer to our initial question. How many warps does it take to beat WARPTORIO? Well, 0 warps technically. You see, we could just press that little warp button right away, but let ourselves get left behind intentionally. Now that we basically told the warp platform to F off by itself and go warp around wherever it wants to go, we can just play through the game normally here on our starter world, with one big difference to vanilla. We have changed, in a completely legal way I should mention, the functionality of the warp button to be a reset biter evolution button. And with no pollution from the warp platform to corrupt our map, we can simply play Factorio normally and get through the entire game without the biters ever evolving beyond their current small biter state. That's so easy, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. And after we complete the entire tech tree, we can warp the platform back home and finally truly settle our home planet to win the game, even though we have personally never left it. Okay, so while that technically could be declared as a win, it's just too cheesy of a method even for my standards. So we'll rephrase the question as, how many warps does it take to beat WARPTORIO without ever getting left behind? We must warp away with the platform at all times. Now, it seems a casual playthrough, including my own first playthrough, usually takes anywhere from 70-ish to way upwards of 100 warps to complete. The answer is 8 warp zones, and in this video series I'll show you the full strategy so you can achieve this yourself. Alright, since we get to spend only 20 minutes on our home planet, the map settings aren't all that influential on the start of the game, and each planet after that will have its own settings independent of whatever we select here. Well, mostly independent, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, to create an additional nice endgame goal, we will play a finite island style map, which you can fully try to conquer upon returning home. But it's not really so much an island, but more like a full continent. At 300% size, the continent will be large enough to spawn massive amounts of ultra dangerous behemoth worms to defend the nests on the outer rims of the continent. Which together with the minimum frequency but maximum size biter base settings will allow us to truly test our endgame gear against the highest difficulty, largest biter bases possible to achieve. We will also set up the smallest starting area possible, which I promise won't cause any kind of havoc-wreaking issues later in the game. We'll also set the home map to no cliffs and no trees, which means pollution can spread freely and biter parting calculations are as optimized as they can be, which will also be very important much later on. Finally, we limit the map size to 6400 by 6400 tiles, which is plenty large enough for our home continent to be fully surrounded by oceans of water on all sides, so why even bother? Well, it was an attempt, an unsuccessful attempt I might add, to limit needless pollution calculations far beyond the horizon in the late game, but which will have yet another unintended side effect to bite me in the behind later on. Okay, enough with the sinister foreshadowing. Let's
get on with it. Yes, get on with it. Yes, get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Alright, so let's get started. We spawn in with the spaceship crashed on top of the warp platform somehow. Talk about literally hitting the bullseye from space. Anyway, we quickly grab the ammo and 8 iron plates hidden in the spaceship and head off to mine a single coal rock to get started. Since we start with 8 iron plates and the burner miner costs 9 iron plates, we need to mine just that single iron to make the second miner, after which we can comment on a coal rock hunt for a bit so we can fuel the future furnaces. Our short-term plan is simple. Expand to 8 miners on iron so we can keep making miners. Then put 8 miners on coal so we can keep fueling our miners. After we expand to 16 on iron because, well, it's early game Factorio and iron is king. Then we put a very specific number of miners on copper, which also happens to be 8. 8 miners on copper with 10 coal each, which will mine us a very carefully calculated amount of copper. Finally, we expand to 16 coal miners as well, while making sure the iron miners have at least as much coal as the copper miners. That will make sure the iron miners will be running for longer than the copper miners, and with all miners being able to produce unattended for a while, we have some time to go out and chop up some more coal rocks. We are basically waiting for the copper miners to run out of coal, after which we will have mined exactly 528 copper, which is exactly not quite precisely enough copper to do all that we want to do, but it's damn effing close. But Michael, why then not just mine a little more copper, you ask? No, you didn't ask, but I'll tell you anyway. This is WARPTORIO. The warp platform has started to pollute the biters exactly 67 seconds after we spawned here, so we could get attacked any moment. The problem is we are absolutely unable to deal with any real attack until we possess some key technologies. Which means there is no point even to try to defend now. We will simply pretend that we are alone on this planet and fully ignore the threat of any biter attacks for now. Fortunately, it seems that WARPTORIO messes with biter attacks in some way, and it usually seems to give you a little leeway in the beginning, though not always. I don't know if it's RNG based or something. I have gotten absolutely demolished mere minutes in, and I have occasionally gotten away without any biter attacks for the full 20 minutes on the first world. So yeah, I haven't been able to fully figure it out, but it seems to be the case that the chance of an attack in the first 10 minutes or so is low enough to roll the dice. Wait, I didn't answer your question yet, did I? So yeah, why don't we just mine a little extra copper then? Well, ideally I would like to get a little bit more, but every extra minute we mine more drastically increases the odds we are hit with a massive game-ending attack. So we settle for an awkwardly inadequate amount of copper, which will become painfully obvious on the next warp world. Anyway, the key moment is when we completed filling the copper miners with exactly 10 coal. From that precise moment on, they will mine copper for slightly more than 4 minutes before we can deconstruct them. During these 4 minutes we complete the coal miners, refuel the iron miners and go out to mine more coal rocks while praying to dear engineer that the biters won't attack our miners just yet. So I guess this is a good time to talk about the goals we want to achieve during the 20 minutes we have on this planet. And they are: first of all, get gun turrets, so our factory is no longer as helpless as a baby being bullied by behemoth biters. Second, get a machine gun and some armor, so we are no longer as helpless as a baby being bullied by behemoth biters. And third, get some assembly machines, so we don't have to handcraft everything like a behemoth biter. This means we need to research 3 technologies, which also means we need to obtain the science infrastructure to perform said research. At least 2 labs, 30 science packs and a power plant to provide electricity. And not to forget, we somehow need to craft a wooden power pole on this treeless world, which is only possible because of the random piece of wood Factorio guy is carrying in his pocket for some reason. Nice. Well, it looks like RNGesus is on our side today, because as the copper miners run out, we haven't been attacked just yet. Come on RNGesus, stay with us just a little longer, while we deconstruct everything we build. Alright, and we even made it before the arbitrary 10-minute mark. Now we need access to water, so we just run to a water point as far away from the ore patches as possible, which is not very far on this map since there are no lakes on the continent outside of the starter lake. So yeah, we are still in a dangerous situation here until we actually have crafted a bunch of gun turrets. Anyway, we build the basic power plant, pop in the 30 science packs and set research to gun turrets first, followed by military for the machine gun and automation for the assemblers. There's not much we can do while we wait, so we keep collecting more rocks while strongly believing we will not trigger the biters by mining that coal rock way too close to the biter nest, which I pulled off successfully once in a test run and have died to every other time I tried. Oh well, I was ready for a restart, but suspiciously I survived, because the few biters which were about to finish me off with literally one more bite suddenly get recalled to the mothership, like in one of those cheap alien movies. Anyway, now that I have gained your full trust that my game files are not altered like in one of those dream speedruns, let's start making some gun turrets and the ammo to feed them. We will need them soon. I actually have a crafting order for this, which will run for the rest of our time on this world. And we want to end up with 24 gun turrets, 64 burner miners and 8 assemblers with 8 inserters to use in Warpzone 1. As you can see, we are currently in Warpzone 0, which is our home world, and the only planet which will not be deleted upon warping away. Anyway, now that we have access to gun turrets, we can finally defend our builds against enemy attacks. So once all 3 research projects are completed, we can deconstruct our small science operation and head back over to the iron patch, where we will mine as much iron as we can for the rest of our time on this planet. I believe we will need all 16 gun turrets for the defense of the iron mine, so we still can't reliably mine the extra copper we need. We simply don't know which location the biters would attack, and we don't have the resources to defend 2 locations just yet. So iron it is. In most of my test rounds, this is where large biter attacks start to happen. The warp platform's pollution spread to the biter bases is now severe and happening in multiple locations all around us, so there's no way to predict when and how the biters will attack. But the longer we have to wait for an attack, the larger it is going to be. When that will inevitably happen, our plan to save the factory is the human bait strategy. Upon spotting a large incoming biter group, we will simply run out and meet them in person, which will hopefully get all of them to trigger on me instead of on my factory. Then I can try to lead them through my combined area of heavy gun turret fire, while the biters chew off my limbs. And hopefully we will win the race as of to who dies first. If all goes well, we can then make our escape to the next planet with most of our limbs still attached to our body. Or actually, we may just get too lucky this playthrough. If the biters will keep gathering for too long, we may just be able to escape this planet before they manage to attack. With just 90 seconds left on the clock, we really have to start deconstructing our miners, or we will have to leave some of them behind. Hopefully they won't attack us now, as this would be the worst possible time for them to... Oh no, here they come. Man, that went about as perfect as can be, but it still cost us a lot of precious seconds. Will we still have the time to deconstruct everything before we need to escape this planet with the warp platform? Only 1 more minute on the clock now, and there is still so much left to deconstruct, and the speed at which we can do it is still so slow, we haven't even gotten the Steel Axe upgrade yet. Especially the gun turrets take forever to deconstruct, and by the way, if another large attack comes in while I'm deconstructing my gun turrets, then it's gonna be all over. I cannot defend myself while I'm deconstructing my only defense. With just 16 seconds left on the clock, everything is deconstructed. We need to sprint back to the warp platform without running into more biters, or we are doomed. And we made it to the platform with 11 seconds to spare. Time to make a save. We're going to have to leave our home planet behind for a long time and warp out to a new planet in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, next time.